Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am the stepson of Krypton, and that
And I'm
weirdo waving at you is.
Mantis.
I want to try something a little different, mix it up a little bit there. Every time I introduce myself, he's always fucking waving here. So today, want to bring a little bit different one. Where we've been doing a lot of news articles and rumors flying around. We did have some people in the comments. One particular person had mentioned that they'd love to see us do a video regarding Darkseid. More importantly, the minions behind Darkseid, his court that of Darkseid, the villains that help Darkseid be Darkseid, because they haven't got a lot of love in live action. So, because you guys asked for it, we listen, and we're going to bring you that video right now. All right, guys. So we know, for those of us, which if you're watching this channel, you should have seen the Justice League movie, and especially the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie, where we did get to see more of Darkseid and a little bit more of his story, as well as we got to see a couple of his minions. All right. Regardless of what you think of them, I will say that the Snyder cut, you do see a better version of Steppenwolf, but he still is not getting a lot of love. And that's kind of the focus behind this video today, is talking about the minions behind Darkseid, the people that are making, the people behind the man that are getting him out there and making him this ruler of everything he sees. So, Mantis, I thought we'd go ahead and we'll do this video. It was comment requested. Kind of break down Darkseid, but mainly the people behind Darkseid. So, for those of you who don't know, we did get to see Darkseid. We have seen Darkseid in
Miss Clifton. Miss Clifton.
Oh, Miss Clifton! Miss Clifton! Over here! Oh, Miss Clifton! 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 Miss Clifton!
Please put that in there.
Yeah. Mantis, do you have a question?
Yeah. Before we jump into this, I did want to kind of preface, as Cal had said in this video, but I know we've talked about this, or maybe you didn't say it in this video. I know we've talked about this in a lot of other videos, but
it's been like 2 minutes. We haven't talked about a lot.
It's been 3 minutes. I feel like DC has the best villains in comics, and Darkseid is probably on that pedestal of the best villain. And I think a great reason for this, as you're about to go into, there's not many other villains that have a posse of individual, a gang posse, I don't know another word we could use for it, of individual characters that all have good backstories and creative character traits, as Darkseid does. And you're right, we only saw a little bit of them in the live action. I think most people, that's probably their first introduction to them, and probably didn't even know they were seeing them at the time. But I just wanted to point out that I feel like his having the group of baddies that he has with him, that they almost seem like mini bosses, because I think of this like in video games where you have the main boss at the end of the game, but to get to him you have to fight all his henchmen and like the mini bosses throughout the game. He has the best ones, and they have fleshed out stories and character arcs and stuff, and it's awesome. So I just want to throw that in there.
Now, that is a very, very, very good interruption, because I 100% agree. While arguably Doomsday might be Superman's greatest villain, because he's an ancient Kryptonian, even he in the comic, it doesn't speak. I know in some animated ones they've made him talk, but in the main one, like if you ever watched the Superman Doomsday animated movie, amazing movie, but he doesn't speak, but he's still one of his greatest villains. Why? Because he's just this indestructible Kryptonian, ancient Kryptonian that can't die. They're even great, but Darkseid is an amazing villain. I would say he's probably Superman's greatest villain, because not only is he powerful, but he's also very, very smart. And yes, he has a lot of mini bosses leading up to him. And the thing is, we can talk. We won't talk a whole lot about the comics because I don't know how many of you guys are super huge comic book fans that follow all the way back into the early 1970s when Darkseid and his minions came into the comics. If you want, let us know down in the comments. I will do a completely separate video just on the comic book origins of them, but we're going to focus more on the live action and animated series where we got to see more of these characters than what you see in the comics. However, in the comics, 1971 started. Actually, the funniest thing we just did. Actually, I'm looking at it right now where I posted Superman's Pal, where we talked about Jimmy Olsen. That was the comic. Superman's Pal was the comic back in 1971 where Darkseid actually debuted. Now he was just as a mention. Later came his
Jack Kirby,
actual
right?
first. Yeah, Jack Kirby is the one who created him. Later would come his full comic book debut where he shows up, and then obviously members of his court show up in Miracle. Mr. Miracle. I'm sorry, I was thinking Miracle Man. Mr. Miracle. They show up in Mr. Miracle episodes or comic 5 and 6 or volume 5 and 6 of it. So goes way, way, way back. But again, when you're dealing with comics, things get retconned. When we're talking about the new 52, Rebirth, and all of that, it's much easier to stick with the live action and cartoons because you can go right on HBO Max and watch these things. So I feel like that's what more people identify with. Let me know. I will do an entire comic book series on just Darkseid and his characters if you want, because a lot of great stuff in there. However, sticking with that, kind of a brief history. Darkseid's the ruler of Apokolips, this fire worn-torn planet with its sister planet, New Genesis, right? So they've been in war for God knows how long. They've been battling Darkseid versus Highfather in a treaty. They came to this pact, this treaty. Darkseid and them actually trade sons. So Darkseid gives his son, Orion, to a Highfather. Highfather gives his son Scott Free, who would become Mr. Miracle, to Darkseid. And that's kind of where it's at. So there's always been, it's kind of like if you were a fan of Stargate, the Asgard have the Protected Planets Treaty. It's kind of like that with New Genesis. They have their planets that they protect and they don't allow Darkseid to do. But as long as he doesn't mess with those, they don't really bother him if he wants to go and rain havoc all over the rest of the universe.
Right.
So.
Yeah, those characters look different too, right? Like, Darkseid, like when they switch those, because I'm thinking back to the animated series or maybe it was the Death of Superman? I can't think of the video now that I'm thinking of, where, because they show this interaction, they show the scene that you're talking about in the
animated series. Now, here's the thing I don't like.
Okay,
the animated series makes it seem like if because we're getting ready to talk about him, Kalibak.
Yes,
Kalibak is Darkseid's son. But the way, because when you look at how they portray Highfather from New Genesis, he kind of looks like Kalibak. So when it looked like they were doing the trade, you almost get the feeling that he traded Kalibak for Orion, but that's not the case. Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle. Yeah, it's Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, that I know of. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that in the animated series, they don't mention Scott Free. They don't mention who the son is. You just kind of assume that, it's Kalibak, even though, because Orion doesn't look anything like Darkseid.
No.
And Kalibak kind of looked like Highfather.
1-year-old Kalibak. Highfather. You are not the father.
So you're like, did they do that on switcheroo? But no. Kalibak is actually Darkseid's eldest son, right? That he had with, basically, he was in love with this woman. I'm not going to pronounce her name. I'll have it on the screen just because I'm really bad about names. But Darkseid's mom did not like that. She wanted Darkseid to marry another woman. And basically uses Darkseid to poison said other woman and kills that woman. Eventually, now Darkseid does have a child with her. That's Orion. So Orion and Kalibak are step siblings. or half brothers. I said step siblings. Sorry, half brothers.
Yeah, it's very Jerry Springer-ish going on here. So it
is, and then you also realize Darkseid, because he's another one we're going to talk about. Not only did he poison Darkseid's, I think it's like Sully. It's like Suli. So, that was Darkseid's love. And then of course his mom is like Hegera, whatever, Heggra, whatever.
Yeah. Sounds
again,
good.
I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. I'm going to post it on the screen, but Darkseid ends up poisoning her as well. So Darkseid's kind of been in there in the works. He's this really
we've seen Darkseid before, right?
So we have seen Darkseid before. We'll come back to him in just a moment. I want to go ahead and round out Kalibak because we have not seen Kalibak in live action.
No,
right?
Yeah, yes.
Most notably, we know him from the animated series. In the original Superman animated series, his first appearance was on its episode called Father's Day, where Clark's dad comes to Metropolis, and Lois, or Clark's dad and mom come to Metropolis, and Lois and Clark are kind of showing him around. Darkseid is the one that actually basically manipulates Kalibak to go to Earth to try to destroy Superman, knowing Darkseid's going to be pissed. And the whole episode they battle, and it's this massive epic battle. At the very end of it, basically Superman throws him like a couple miles away. By the time he gets there, Darkseid Omega beams him out and sends him back, and he basically Omega beams Superman, because Superman's asking like, "Who are you? What did you do with the man?" And he's like, "That is who I am." Voiced by Michael Ironside, absolutely perfect for Darkseid.
That is who I am. And when the time comes, you and this primitive planet will swear allegiance to Darkseid, or you will be destroyed.
Yep, I agree.
And and he kind of tells him, he's like, when the time comes, either you'll bow down or you'll be destroyed. Love that scene, but that's the first time you see Kalibak. The next times you see him, it's like he's knocked out in one punch, right? He gets taken out in one punch. Versus we had an entire episode with all these fights, because in the, I think it's the second season of the animated series, in Apocalypse Now Part 2, we see Steppenwolf and we see Kalibak. Both are very easily defeated. We'll go into that a little bit more. But Kalibak gets knocked out basically in one punch. So he's not had the greatest of runs, but he is Darkseid's eldest son. Obviously, possesses super strength or ability. Definitely not a genius level IQ. But he is always jealous of Orion, right? He's jealous because Darkseid loves Orion and he's his favorite son. Kalibak, being the oldest, is kind of forgotten. Now, moving on from him, we are going to go to Darkseid. He was the next one. That's what I want to say. So, we have seen Darkseid. We have seen him twice in live action. Most recently, we saw him in the Justice League. We got to see him in a couple of times when he was in the little rock shape with the mother boxes. We got to see him kind of morphed. And then when they opened the portal at the end, when they have the boom tube out, at least I'm calling it a boom tube. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but that's what it looked like. It was a fucking boom tube. We get to see Darkseid. We have seen him in Smallville in season 10. So played by Steve Byers. We did get to see him in there. Now it's kind of weird because he's just a regular human, or he's possessed a human. Go ahead.
I was going to go into a rant. I'll just say I don't like the way they did several of the characters from Darkseid and even Doomsday, quite frankly, in that series. That's the only thing I dislike about that series. That's my end of the rant, because we'll go on a 10-minute long thing on it. So, sorry.
So here's my thing. I could give you Doomsday as much as and I'll even give you Darkseid, Granny Goodness, and Godfrey. I don't give you Darkseid. How you did Darkseid.
That yes, it was an abomination.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it was.
But yes, we aren't going to go on to that because we can do an entire video on just that, because it was, as much as I love Smallville and it was the last episode, so you got to give it a break because you see him in the suit. It was, but we have seen him. We have seen Darkseid several times now. Darkseid is basically Darkseid's chief torturer, and inventor. He comes up with a lot of the technology that
He's
that
the smart
Darkseid
guy,
uses.
right?
He is the smart guy, but he's also very deceiving, right? He does show very fierce loyalty to Darkseid, but he also, similar to what I just talked about, the Father's Day episode of the animated series, he knows Darks because Calibac asks, he said, "Let me go destroy Superman," and Darkseid says no. Desaad basically convinces him to go to
Very.
Earth.
He's very manipulative.
He's pulling a lot of strings,
yeah.
right? As far as powers wise, that's really his thing is more intellect, and he takes pleasure in people suffering. You don't really see powers now. Obviously, all of them are new gods. So even Darkseid, Desaad, Calibac, they're all considered the new gods, right? So they all possess a certain level of immortality as far as, basically not being able to be harmed by bullets and things like that we're used to. So as we go through these, you keep in mind all of them are going to kind of fall straight into that. Next, we have Granny Goodness. Now, again, we have seen Granny Goodness, and I've got the picture up for Mantis. I'll show it here. We got to see a glimpse of her in the Snyder cut of the Justice League. You never hear her. I think you kind of hear her because she was voiced by April Stewart in that. She was CG in the Justice League, but you see her, you kind of hear her. And also, as well, she was in Smallville.
It's the Smallville, like it like the scene. Just I don't know if it was in a hospital or something. Like I can just remember because it's been a while since I've seen that episode, and she's just sitting there. You don't even actually see her face. I don't think. I could be wrong, but she's sitting there with the like long dress on, with her little fucking crochet thing or a purse or something. With like. When I think of like that version of Granny Goodness, I think of what's her face from the Golden Girls. She was on the Harvey Korman show.
Are you talking Blanche or Rose or?
Shit, I don't know. Let me look it up. Continue.
All right, look it up. Was it so? You did get to see Granny Goodness, played by Christine Willis. I think I'm saying her name right. There is a episode in season 10 of Smallville called Abandoned, where you find out that that's where you really find out Tess Mercer was a Luther, and she was dropped off at the orphanage at a young age. Granny Goodness took her in and trained her, which adds an interesting thing here. I'm trying to keep this video short, guys, but it's just too much information, too much good stuff. It makes it really weird because that shows that Granny Goodness has been on Earth for like decades, right? Which is kind of weird. That you're not thinking about it because you're always used to her being, on Apokolips. So Granny Goodness has been on Earth for decades. She'd been training these women to become who we're going to go into in just the very next one we're going to talk about, the female Furies. We are going to get into. But with Granny Goodness, seeing her in that episode was awesome in Smallville. I thought the actress played a very kind of like... misery, kind of like I was trying to think Kathy Bates type of she seems for whatever reason I'm around to Kathy Bates on that, but the way she's very, very manipulative. However, in the animated series, one of my favorite episodes in all of animated Superman animated is the very last two episodes called Legacy Part 1 and 2 of the original Superman animated series. Granny Goodness actually brainwashes. So Superman's kidnapped or he's beaten, he's rendered unconscious, kidnapped. Granny Goodness actually wipes his memory and makes him believe he is Darkseid's son and turns him against Earth. Mm-hmm. Absolutely great, because at the end of Apokolips Now Part 2, when Superman finally gets to meet Darkseid like officially, he says, Darkseid offers him to join him, and Superman says, I can't do that. And he's like, pity. He's like, if you won't be my knight, you will be my pawn. Well, at the end of those episodes in Legacy 1 and 2, good. He turns Superman against him. So in Part 2, when Superman goes to Apokolips, Darkseid says that. He goes, I told you if you wouldn't be my knight, you would be my pawn. Because he turned Earth against him. Earth hates Superman at the end of that. And he damn near kills Supergirl. Amazing. Like, I cannot profess, if you have not watched the Superman animated series, go watch it. And the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. All of it kind of ties together. I didn't realize, because it almost sounds similar, but Tim Daly, who voices Superman in the animated series, does not voice him in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. All right, go on.
Sorry, I found this. I just want to set this. I wasn't talking about the Golden Girls. I thought I was, and maybe she has guest starred on the Golden Girls. But Vicki Lawrence, who plays Thelma Harper in Mama's Family, that's who I was thinking of in the whole like pearls and the beehive thing and the long dress and kind of propery but kind of snarky. For some reason, that's what I was thinking of in that. Anyway, continue.
All right, random shit that I know nothing about. I cannot add to that conversation, guys. Let us know down in the comments if you can. But no, that's beyond me on that. But
Maybe
that
I'm crazy.
was
I've been
great
drinking.
because that episodes of Legacy 1 and 2, we get to see not only Granny Goodness, but we get to see the female Furies, which we're going to talk about with Lasha, Mad Harriet, and Stompa. Nobody's putting too many muscles on that name.
I'm going to go on a rant here, and I know we've kind of gone long in this video, but because we did another video, we've done several videos on this, but we did a video regarding some characters being changed to female when they shouldn't, when you have good female characters. Here is an example, including Granny Goodness, of good female characters, albeit they are bad guys, or bad girls, bad women, whatever you want to say. In an example, a prime example of the fact that you have these characters already. Use them. And that's all I'm going to say on it.
Now, real quick to that, it's funny you brought that up. So, in the animated series, Granny Goodness is voiced by Edward Asner. He's voiced by a dude. But does a great job.
Bart Simpson. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's Bart Simpson style, right? It's just reversed. All right, so
yeah.
I mentioned the female fairies. Mantis is talking about obviously having, some good female characters that have good stories. Now, most of them, the main, because there's been several female fairies throughout. Like, there's been many members of the female fairies. We're going to focus mainly on the ones that we've seen in animated and live action because you're going to have to really go into the comics, at least that I know of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to go into the comics to find like the original, like Big Barda, who actually ends up falling in love with Mr. Miracle, and basically they go good, right? And they flee to Earth because they go good. Well, I say go good. Mr. Miracle was Highfather's son. Highfather, not to go off on a tangent, but Highfather gave him part of that pact was given him to Darkseid because he wanted to quell Orion becoming as evil as his dad because he knew his power, but also he knew that giving his son scot-free, Mr. Miracle, to Darkseid, he would not go evil, right? He would not go down the path of Darkseid. Didn't think he could save him, but he knew that his son wouldn't go down that path. And he doesn't. Big Barda, who used to be the leader of the female Furies, they fall in love. They leave for Earth. But the big ones that we have seen, the big names, obviously Granny Goodness. She runs this orphanage. We saw it in Smallville. She's always run. Most of the female Furies don't have a lot of past that's even known in the comics. Now, some things have been retconned, but for the most part, that they don't have a lot of past. They come to the orphanage as kids. They get trained to be basically the special forces of Darkseid, right? They get to be the
Here's
badass.
a perfect opportunity because we all know Hollywood can't create, they just assimilate.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
And bastardize stuff that's already been there. Here's a perfect example, an opportunity for them, and I say them. I know James Gunn's not writing all of this, but if he ever wanted to, because I'm hoping in the future that Darkseid and all of these characters can fully come in, whether that be in animation, whether that be in live action or a series or something, that these characters do come to life. Here's a perfect example of a case where you have good female characters that don't have a quote-unquote technically canon background that you can manipulate and do whatever you want with, and it's going to be fine. Just saying that.
And I think it would be, because we have seen... So Lashina, we have seen in both the animated... in Superman, the animated series, as well as the Justice League Unlimited series, and Smallville. So played by Rochelle Oakey... K-O-Y-E. Okay. In Smallville. Voiced by Diane Michelle in the animated series. But she's basically the field leader of the female Furies, right? And of course, Lashina, her is basically these electric lashes. They almost, in the animated series, they look like her suit. It looks like some type of hospital bandages, but they're also lashes. That's what they look like. I know they're lashes, but it looks like she just takes part of those, and they're electric lashes / kind of like whips or whatever that she uses. That we got to see now in Smallville. You see them, but they're really just whips, right? They're ropes because Tess is being hung by one of them, and at some point in the episode. And so, like we've seen her in live action. Mad Harriet, that we've also seen, played by Lindsay Hartley in Smallville. What? At least at that time. And we've all grown, we've all aged. I'm sure she still looks better now than I do. And, when we talk about aging, because I'm not attractive. Voiced by Andrea Martin in the animated series, she has extendable claws. She got some fucking Wolverine claws, except they're a full hand of claws, right? So we got to see her. She messes Clark up because, of course, they're there as they're forging their weapons in Smallville. They're using the meteor rocks. They're using kryptonite to forge the weapons, so Clark's vulnerable. So she's cutting him all up with her fucking claws. Now, the one that, so we got to see mainly those two in Smallville, but the main one that we see in the animated series we have not seen come to live action yet is Stompa. Okay, so she is arguably the strongest of the female Furies that we have seen. She has her antimatter boots that she uses basically to do her earthquake stomp. She's the one that when we've seen...
bitch.
That's a huge bitch!
She is. She's the one that when we see physicality, that basically is, keeping up with Superman, right? So again, you got a little bit for everybody in there, right? But again, all of them are considered new gods. They all possess a pretty decent levels of durability, invulnerability. I know a lot of sites will always list them as being invulnerable, but that's the main group of female Furies. Now, if you want me to, again, let me know down in the comments. I will just do a quick short video on the rest of the female Furies, because as we go to other members of Darkseid's court here, one of them, their daughter, becomes a member of the female Furies. However, we're already running way over on time here, so